Today, let's talk about separation anxiety. I refer to all sorts of separation. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. Whether your partner is going to the grocery store, or they're hanging out with their friends, responding to your text messages late, or when you perceive there's distancing and potential abandonment. I relate very strongly personally to this topic because I struggled with it for the majority of my life, and I wanted to share more than 2 decades of learning and healing in hopes I could shed some light on this matter and help you relieve your shame and pain. So let's jump right into it. The most important message from this video is that separation can evoke strong emotions and deepest vulnerability within anyone who is facing separation. It's very primitive ever since the moment we come out of our mother's womb. It doesn't matter how much psychology knowledge you've learned or how many YouTube videos you've watched. But the key difference here between people who tend to regulate themselves better and who tend to be more secure around the matter of separation and us, people with attachment wounds, is that nurtured by sensitive and in-tuned parental responses, they have developed what we call object permanence, meaning that they have acquired the felt sense that even if objects are temporarily out of sight, they are still there. They're out there some way connected to us. But people with attachment wounds like us, we find it extremely hard to believe that, number one, people, they're out there, out of our sight, are still there. They can still hold us in their mind, even if we are temporarily separated. And second, we could feel safe and whole by ourselves without being touched constantly around that object. And third, the connection, the bond, can be repaired after short rupture, meaning that it's a part of a natural process of relationship with repairs and ruptures. When we couldn't find the most secure feeling towards the things I just mentioned, no wonder separation can evoke the strongest feeling within us. Put yourself in the shoes of a helpless and vulnerable baby. How scary is that? It doesn't matter how hard we try to convince ourselves out of feeling it. It's not a big deal. You're overreacting. You're too sensitive. You're acting irrationally or whatever. Or we could try really hard to not act out, to not desperately cling. But at that moment, the anxiety is all there is. We feel it both in a perception level and physiological level. If you have gone through this, you would know what I'm talking about, right? We could also feel very ashamed about acting this way. And there may even be some turbulences, conflicts revolving around the matter of separation between you and your partners. Sometimes the anxiety can trick us to believe that it's not working. There are so many issues, so many problems in this relationship that you need to fix, we need to figure out, right? But do not try to talk it over with your partner when you are away, when you're separated, because it's not about the relationship. It's about us. It's about our attachment wounds getting activated. It's about our anxiety, which we need to learn to face and deal and heal. So it simply is not the best time to fix things, to talk things over when you're away without making things worse. So this is a really the biggest lesson I have learned over the years. Please don't be ashamed of whatever is happening. I used to really blame myself and shame myself and put all those labels on myself, like being too sensitive, too needy, not normal, and all those things. Until one day I started to really understand what is happening. And that is truly freeing because I know there's nothing wrong with me. It's just what happened. And it really gives me a lot of courage to carry on healing. The exciting news is now that we know what it is, we can try to reparent ourselves into feeling more secure, to make up for what's missing when we're growing up. And it's just a matter of time. Changing partners, changing environments might work temporarily, but the ultimate weapon is to build up ourselves. Just imagine a world. Whoever you meet, whatever circumstances that show up, that's a piece of cake to you because you feel this inner security and confidence that things can be handled without them triggering you into emotional storm. This is the ultimate goal of healing, isn't it? This is what we want, right? Tip number 1. This is actually what I've learned from Deb Dana, the author of Polyvagal Theory in Therapy and my own psychotherapist. I know a lot of videos out there are telling you to focus on yourself and ignore the anxiety that arises in any type of separation in relationship. But I'm here to tell you something else. With attachment wounds, our sense of self is closely tied to being acknowledged and validated by someone else, being held in others' mind. That's what we want, to feel secure. So if you wanted to soothe yourself in the moment, you have to first feel and experience the safe attachment first. It's like, oh, I know that mommy's here. Oh, I know that I have someone in my back all the time. They're here. I'm safe. Now that I can go out and play and explore myself and create things. Asking us to stop thinking about our partners or just turn back the focus completely to ourselves is just not realistic when we're triggered of this painful emotional wounds. With that being said, what should we do? The key here to recover from this kind of separation anxiety is to maintain connection with the person that you are attached to. It doesn't matter if it's your partner or therapist or friend or parents. If we cannot do it physically, we do it mentally. So I'm going to use 2 examples. Deb Dana would encourage her clients to write down some encouraging words from her on little cards and carry those cards around. So whenever her clients start to panic and get triggered at thoughts of losing this connection, looking at those cards re-establishes the mental connection to create safety and reassurances which she cannot give herself at the moments of emotional storm. Similarly, to establish the sense of safety and stability, my therapist and I agreed on a routine. Like whenever I felt really bad, really triggered, I would text her. Whenever she's too busy to respond, she would reply an emoji of tulip. And that is why I love tulip so much. Whenever I see this emoji, I would be reminded first, she's there, I'm safe. And second, she's busy. She couldn't get into details with me. And last, she cares enough to remember our little routine, to remind me of our stable and nurturing relationship. So get creative, people. Maybe create a photo album, wear the perfume or necklace he gave you, favorite some text messages or voice messages that shows his love to you, or create some kind of routine that reminds you of the stable relationship. I know that sometimes in that moment emotions could get really overwhelming and strong, and you could be tricked into believe that things are going wrong, like catastrophic things are happening. But please remember that in that moment, what you're feeling doesn't reflect proportionally of what is actually going on, and you need to constantly remind yourself that. The second method is that, similarly to the fact that you have to be nurtured enough to face separation, we have to claim our individual identity, to be separated from others, to connect authentically in relationships. That is why it's very important to expand and rephrase our understanding of closeness, of intimacy. Usually when anxiety arises, we're focused externally. We're not in our body and getting in touch with ourselves. We rely on the last resort strategy to change our partners, to get them to show more love to us as a soothing cure. But during times of separation, without being excluded to be connected to our partners, this is an awesome opportunity for us to practice living authentically and fully in the moment, to experience what it feels like to be close to ourselves, to connect ourselves, to explore what we want, who we are. With this felt sense of self, we can better connect when our partners return. Being connected to yourself means something broader. It means that you get to explore what's going on underneath your anxiety. Whether it's fear towards abandonment, the pain of getting triggered, disappointments for never getting your needs met, sadness over loss of self, shame over being weird or inauthentic, whatever emotions are, anxiety is only the surface symptom covering up your vulnerabilities and deep emotions. When you have the courage to face those emotions, the anxiety could naturally be relieved over time. If you're interested in learning about triggers for anxious obsession, I have a video about it. I'm gonna put it up here. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.